Well, good afternoon. Welcome to Training Bytes. I'm glad you took some time out of your day to join me today. If you have any questions, please enter them in the chat window in the Ring Central toolbar. We will have a Q&A at the end, and I'll answer any questions you have. My name is Gina Thomas. I'm the training manager here at C&K Systems and your hostess for Training Bytes, a digestible approach to counterpoint training. Some vendors that you work with may have other values for purchasing certain items other than the each, or some of your vendors may require a unit minimum for some items that you purchase, or, or even purchasing in multiples for certain items, 246 or 369. So trying to remember which items in your inventory require conditional purchasing can be a little daunting trying to remember all that. Or if you aren't meeting that conditional purchasing requirement for the vendor, you might have purchasing documents that get rejected, or there might be some lost discount opportunities. So we're going to talk about alternate units today. We're going to talk about how to define an alternate unit, also how to define item order minimums, and also ordering in multiples. So I'm going to give a quick PowerPoint presentation, and then we'll actually do some work in the software. So some best practices. When you're building an item, your main stocking unit should always be an each, always 100% of the time. Now, I have some people that say, well, Gina, I sell water, and I only sell water by the six-pack, so I'm going to make my main stocking unit a six-pack because that's the only way I buy and sell this item. Well, eventually, that six-pack of water is going to come into your store, and one of the bottles is damaged and has to be thrown away. Or you decide to break apart that six-pack and stock individual bottles of water in your refrigerator or cooler. So if you have made your main stocking unit a six-pack, and then you make an alternate unit of an each, when you sell that single bottle of water and you go look at your on hand for your six-pack, it's going to be a fraction. So for example, I have one six-pack on hand, I sell a bottle, now I go look at my on hand for my six-pack and it's 0.9 or 0.8. So this gets very confusing, especially when you're doing a physical inventory. So please always make your main stocking unit an each. When it comes to pricing and costing the item, again, it's at the each level. Then you're going to leverage alternate units for your larger sizes, like your six-pack or your 12-pack or your case of 24. Alternate units can be set up directly through the item record, which is pretty straightforward, and I'm going to show you how to do that today. Or you can go, alternatively, you can go to Setup Inventory Alternate Units and set up your alternate units there. When it comes to selling by the six-pack or by the 12-pack, this is only possible for counterpoint front-end users. So if you're a Galaxy customer, you know who you are as soon as I say Galaxy, this feature is not available to you at point of sale. However, you can still leverage the alternate units for your purchasing and your receiving. So for you counterpoint front-end users, when you set up an alternate unit, so I'm here on my Units tab, and I lost my little annotation. Come on back here. Oh, I guess I'm just not going to be able to annotate today. You're going to come to your Units tab, and this is where you would set the price of this particular unit. You can also define unique barcodes for your alternate units. So your each can have a unique barcode, and your alternate unit can have a unique barcode. And if you come here to the Other tab, you can enable a switch that says Prompt for Unit. So if you manually select this item at point of sale through a lookup, Counterpoint will pop up a box that says, well, what do you want? Do you want the each or do you want the set? When it comes to purchasing using alternate units, you have to tell Counterpoint your preferred purchasing unit, and that's pretty easy to do. On the item record itself, if you look at the very bottom of your item screen, you've got a little box called Vendor Items. And when you open up Vendor Items, you'll come to the Purchasing tab, and you'll go to the Purchasing Unit and do a lookup for the preferred purchasing unit, which then becomes a suggestion. The unit cost is whatever the cost is of that unit. So if the preferred purchasing unit were a 6-pack, this cost would be the cost of the 6-pack. You'll also notice on this same screen is where you would set your minimum order quantity. Every time I order this item, I have to order at least 3, or your order multiples. Anytime I order this item, I have to order in multiples of 2. And then there's also this cool thing called lead time. So you can actually click on Auto Calculate, and Counterpoint will calculate the time that lapses in between purchasing and receiving, which then in turn you can see through purchasing what the lead time is for that item. When you're creating a purchase request or you're receiving without a PO, when you select the item, the preferred purchasing unit is going to be the default here under the unit. On the fly, you can change that. Oh, you know what, I'm just going to purchase an each today, or I'm just going to go ahead and purchase the set. Now that's building your purchasing documents or receiving without a PO. You can change that unit flag on the fly. If you're receiving against a PO, when this item is on the receiving document, you cannot change that unit. It's dictated by what was ever set on the purchasing document. So your receiving people, when receiving against a PO, cannot change this flag. When it comes to using minimums or multiples, if you set a minimum on an item, let's say 3, and you only order 2, Counterpoint's just going to pop up a message that says, you're supposed to order at least 3 of these. I see you're only ordering 2. You can bypass that warning and still order 2. The same is true with multiples. If you've told Counterpoint that you only order in multiples of 2, 2, 4, 6, 8, and I got to mute everybody again. Okay, there we go. So if you order in multiples of 2 and you try to order 3, Counterpoint will pop up a warning that says you're supposed to order in multiples of 2, but you can bypass the warning and order 3. Now, if you use that cool feature in purchasing called Add Items, there's also a flag in there that when you are using the Add Items for replenishment ordering, days of supply, or maximum, you can check flags to make sure Counterpoint's paying attention to your vendor minimum or your multiples. So for example, if your vendor minimum is 3 and you actually sold 2 in your replenishment date range, with this flag enabled, Counterpoint will suggest that you order 3. Now, if you have multiples set, multiples of 2, and you sold 3 in that replenishment date range, you can tell this flag to either bump up to the next multiple, bump down to the previous multiple, or just leave it alone. The same thing is true in purchasing advice for those of you that use purchasing advice to build your purchasing documents, which is a great tool, by the way, if you've never used it. Same flag lives in there. Now, you'll notice down here on the lower left, the units defaults to a stocking unit, which would be your main stocking unit, the each. You can actually change this flag to vendor to say, pay attention to my preferred purchasing unit on this report and when you build my purchasing document. And you have that same flag to pay attention to the vendor minimum or to pay attention to the vendor multiple. So with that being said, let's go into the software and take a look. Okay, so I'm just going to go to Inventory and Items. And I'm going to find my bottled water. So I have bottled water in here. And I don't know if you know this, but Counterpoint does tend to remember your last lookup. So it did remember that the last time I was in my lookup, I was looking at bottled water. I'm going to click OK. And so what I'd like to point out to you is that this price here is a unit price for my main stocking unit of each. Notice I have 0 on hand right now. My barcode for the each is 1234. So this barcode represents the barcode for that stocking unit. Now when I go to units, I have a 6-pack here, and I'm going to sell it for $12 at point of sale. I also have another alternate unit called 12-pack, and I'm going to sell that at point of sale for $24. You can have up to 5 alternate units. So I'm going to create a third alternate unit called 24. So I'm just going to come here to my Alt 3 tab, and as I mentioned in the PowerPoint presentation, you can create these on the fly. So I'm just going to go into this lookup, and I'm just going to click on Add. I'm going to give it a name, Case 24. Let me make that uppercase, Case 24. Press my Enter key, give it a name, Case 24, a little redundant. Then you got to do a little math here. And it's pretty simple math. You have to tell Counterpoint that one case of 24 equals how many eaches? Easy, 24. And then I'm just going to save. And then I'm going to put a price on my case of 24, which is going to be $48. Now on the Barcodes tab, you can see I have a barcode for my 6-pack. I have a barcode for my 12-pack. And I have a barcode for my each. Now I want to have a barcode for my case of 24. So I'm going to click on a blank line. I'm going to come down to the barcode field and assign a barcode, or you can have Counterpoint assign the barcode. I'm going to go to the associated unit drop down, and I'm going to choose case of 24. And then my barcode type, I'm just going to go into this lookup, and I'm going to select item. It doesn't matter which one you select, but you do need to select a barcode type. And this barcode type is just a word. It could be avocado or pineapple for all Counterpoint cares. But why you need a barcode type plays into receiving. If you don't have a barcode type on an item record, when you receive that item, you will not be able to print labels from the receiver. So pretty important to have a barcode type. So I'm just going to go ahead and select item. Now if I go to the other tab and I enable prompt for unit right here, that means if I manually select this item, Counterpoint will pop up that box that says, well, what are you selling? And I'm going to show you how that works. So I'm just going to save my item here. And I'm going to go ahead and log into point of sale. Okay, so I'm manually going to select the bottled water. I'm just going to go into my lookup. Here's my bottled water. I'm going to click OK. And there's my pop-up. What do you want to sell? The each, the 6-pack, the 12-pack, or the case? And I'll just say OK to the case. Now, if I scan a barcode, like barcode 123, it brings up my 6-pack. If I scan my other barcode, 1234, it brings up my each. If I scan my other barcode, which was 5 ones, it brings up the 12-pack. And if I scan my other barcode, which was for the case of 24, it brings up the case of 24. So that's how alternate units work at point of sale. Pretty nice. Now, when it comes to purchasing and receiving, and I want to specify a preferred purchasing unit, I'm going to go to Inventory, and I'm going to go to Items. And again, I'm just going to find my bottled water. Then I'm going to come all the way down to the bottom here to where it says Vendor Items. I'm going to click on Vendor Items. And before I do that, let me point out that my primary vendor here is Adams. Now, of course, in Counterpoint, you can get an item from multiple different vendors, but whatever's here on this main tab, right here of your item record, this is considered the primary vendor. So I'm going to go to Vendor Items, and then to pull up the primary vendor very easily, just use this left face or right facing arrow. If you go into this lookup here, you'll see all your vendors. But if you simply click on this right facing arrow, Counterpoint will automatically select your primary vendor. Or if you go into the lookup on the toolbar, you'll only see vendors associated with the item, not your entire list of vendors. So I'm just going to cancel out of that. Then I'm going to go to purchasing right here. This is where I'm going to select my preferred purchasing unit. I just go into the lookup and choose my 6-pack. And you can see the calculation here. One 6-pack is equal to 6 eaches. And then the unit cost for that 6-pack is $9. Now, while I'm here, I'm going to go ahead and auto-calculate lead time so I know how much time lapses in between the time I place the order and receive the order. So I'm going to click on auto-calculate, and Counterpoint gives me a warning. It's going to auto-calculate. Okay, so you can see my lead time is 7 days. I'm just going to go ahead and save this. And now I'm going to go ahead and purchase this item. So I'm going to close out of here. And I'm going to go to purchasing and purchase request and enter. Okay, and I already have a purchase request started here. So I'm going to come to the Lines tab. I'm going to go into my item number lookup, and I'm going to select the bottled water. And you can see over on the right how it defaults to 6-pack. Now I'm just going to put a quantity here, and I'm going to say, oh, you know what, Counterpoint? I don't want to buy this 6-pack for $9. I only want to buy a single bottle. So I would just choose each, and then watch how Counterpoint calculates the each price or the each cost. So it's pretty nice the way it works. Now, if I want to see the lead time while I'm here, I'm just going to go click on this line here so I can make it jump to the top of the page. Enter, enter, enter. I'm going to highlight this line. I'm going to come up to View. I'm going to go down to Vendor Item. And you can see down here at the bottom where it says lead time 7 days. So pretty nice reason to have a lead time. You can actually see it through purchasing. Now, the same is going to happen when I receive. So I'm just going to exit from here. I'm just going to go to Receivings, enter. Okay, I'm just going to auto-assign. Now, when I auto-assign, I get a list of my open POs. I'm just going to say, you know what, cancel that. I'm not going to receive against a PO. I am going to receive without a PO. Oops, got to have the right vendor spelling in there. And I'm going to go to Lines, and I'm going to go ahead and select my bottled water. There it is. And again, because I'm not receiving against a PO, I can change this 6-pack by using the drop-down and changing it to each. And again, once I do that, it modifies the cost down to the unit cost. Okay, now I'm going to go ahead and create a purchase request with that bottled water. I should have posted the last one, but I didn't. So now I'll take care of it right now. So I'm going to just call this one up. I'm going to get my bottled water. There it is. I'm going to order one 6-pack, and I'm going to post. Okay, now I'm going to receive against the PO. And there it is right there. And now I'm going to go to Lines. So you can see here's my bottled water, but I can't come down here as the receiving person and change the unit. It's reading from the PO. Okay, and then I'll just go ahead and I'll post. Now, at the end of the day, everything is going to become an each because of that main stocking unit is each. So if I receive in one 6-pack, my new on hand is going to be 6. If I receive in two 6-packs, my on hand is going to be 12. So I'm just going to click on post. And I'll just show you how that works on the item record. So there isn't anything in Counterpoint when you look at an item record that says, oh, I see you have two eaches and one 6-pack on hand. Counterpoint's going to do the math and say you have 8 eaches. So at the end of the day, everything becomes an each. So you can see now I have 6. I received in one 6-pack. My main stocking unit is each. Counterpoint knows that. And so then it says, now you have 6 on hand. Now, where it is pretty handy for those alternate units is during physical inventory. So you can actually do your physical inventory and count your 6-packs and your eaches separately, which makes sense because you're never going to take your 6-packs and break them all down into eaches on your shelves. You're going to stock some 6-packs and you're going to stock some eaches. But when you're doing your physical count, and I already did my create step, which is very important. Here's my bottled water. So I can come in here and I can tell Counterpoint I have 2 eaches. And then I can go down to count quantity 2 and say I have 1, I'm going to use this drop down, 6-pack. At the end of the day, when I'm done posting this inventory, my new on hand for this item is going to be 8. The 6 eaches from the 6-pack plus the 2 single eaches. Okay, next we'll talk about the minimum and multiples. So I'm going to go back to my item. I'm going to select the bottled water. I'm going to come down here to vendor items. I'm going to use my right facing arrow. I'm going to go to purchasing. And I'm just going to put a multiple of 2 on here. And then I'm going to save. So basically I'm telling Counterpoint, anytime I order this 6-pack, I have to order in multiples of 2, 2, 4, 6, 8. So now I'm going to go ahead and, oh, I don't know if I saved that. Let me go double check, otherwise it's not going to work. Oh, good, I did save it. Yay! Okay, so now I'm going to go to purchasing. And I'm going to go to a purchase request and enter. And I'm just going to go ahead and give this a number. Pick a vendor. Go to lines. Now I'm going to select my bottle of water. And remember I said I have to order in multiples of 2. So if I try and order 3, this is what happens. Counterpoint says, this vendor requires you to order in multiples of 2 6-packs. But I can say, okay, and I can just continue to order 3. Now let's go look at minimums. So I'm just going to go back to the item record and reselect my bottled water. Come back down to vendor items. Go back to my purchasing tab. I'm going to take away the multiples and I'm going to say, you know, anytime I order this 6-pack, my vendor requires that I order at least 3. And I'm going to go ahead and save. And now I'm going to go back to purchasing. And this behavior is the same in receiving without a PO, by the way. So I'm going to go to purchasing and go back to purchase request. And I'm going to select my bottle of water. And remember I said the minimum was 3. So I'm going to order 2. And Counterpoint even says, hey, this vendor requires you to order at least 3 of the 6-packs. But I only want 2, so I can just make it 2. It's that easy. Now, for those of you that use the cool feature add items, and it is a really cool feature, and I'm often surprised by how many people don't notice this feature or have never used it, but it is a great feature. Down here, this button, Add Items, actually takes you to a new window where you can have Counterpoint tell you what you should order based on your sales. It's called replenishment ordering. So if I click on Add Items, I'm just going to save my current changes. So here's my new window. Now, the default the first time you come in here is none. It looks like this. All right, so I'm just going to use this drop down. I'm going to choose replenishment. I'm going to tell Counterpoint to suggest a quantity to me. I'm going to say pay attention to my vendor minimum. And down here is the sales date range I want Counterpoint to analyze. So now when I come to select items, you can see in that date range that I actually sold 4. And Counterpoint is suggesting that I pay attention to my multiples and my minimums. So it's suggesting that I order 3 6-packs, which equals 18. So that's how that works in add items. And you can even see down here, I suggest you order 3, that's your minimum, and I suggest you order 3 6-packs. I can always change this. I can always change the units that are being ordered as well. I'm just going to go ahead and close out of that. Now, for those of you that use purchasing advice, and again, if you don't, it's a great tool. Purchasing advice will also allow you to do replenishment ordering, but purchasing advice will also build your purchasing documents for you. Huge time saver. So I'm going to click on purchasing advice. And same thing, I can tell Counterpoint to pay attention to my minimum, or if I'm using multiples, to round to the nearest or decrease to the previous, or just leave it alone. Now down here on the lower left, it defaults to stocking units, meaning the each. So if I use this drop down and I choose vendor, it's going to pay attention to ordering by the 6-pack. I'm just going to leave it at the stocking units for now. And I'm just going to go ahead and put in yesterday's date range. Okay, and then I'm just going to go ahead and preview. So you can see, because I left that stocking unit, or I left that unit flag, it's stocking unit, it's saying, I see you sold 4 in that date range. You know, you have a minimum of ordering 3 6-packs, therefore I want you to order 18 eaches. Okay? Now I'm going to change that flag. I'm going to change it to vendor and leave everything else the same. Now I'm going to click on preview. Because I said look at the vendor stocking unit, it can't do a fraction here, so it's just saying, I see you sold 1, but you need to order 3 6-packs. Okay? And for those of you that have never seen this before, once you get that report, you can always generate. So I'm going to click on OK. And Counterpoint notices that there's already some open purchasing documents, so it'll probably merge this onto an existing document. And it did. It took my one purchase request that I had open and it just updated it. This is a great feature, though, you know, to actually build your purchasing documents for you. Don't need to see that. Okay, so that's alternate units. And if you've never seen the add items feature or used the purchasing advice, let me know. We can get together for a training and I'll teach you how to use them, because they're great tools to make your life easier. All right, let's go back to the PowerPoint presentation. All right, so your takeaways today: you should know how to define an alternate unit. You should know how to set your minimums and your multiples, and you should be able to use those alternate units for purchasing and receiving. Okay, so how did we do? I always appreciate your feedback and topic suggestions. On Friday or Monday, when you get your video, there will be a survey attached. If you could fill that out, that would be great. You can remain anonymous. Or if you just feel like going to our website to fill out the survey right away, www.cksystem.com/training Bytes survey. And next month, exciting month next month, this is on April 7th, next month, I'm going to talk about useful reports. Now, there's tons and tons of reports in Counterpoint, but I'm going to just highlight and focus on some of the most useful ones, especially, you know, sometimes it's just hard to determine what report you need to get the information you want. So I'm going to focus on sales analysis, which will help you analyze your sales. We'll focus on merchandise analysis, which will let you look at multiple data types on one report. And here's what that means. When I run a sales analysis, I can only see one data type called sales. That's all I can see on sales analysis is sales. In merchandise analysis, I can see sales plus quantity on hand plus received plus quantity on purchase order all in one report. And then we're going to focus on some really helpful inventory reports, like the inventory status, the history, and the valuation reports. So please be sure and join me. It'll be a fun session. And with that being said, I shall take your questions. So let me just check the chat window here. And I don't see any. So I'll just wait a moment in case you think of a question. I should have some hold music playing right now. Or somebody can unmute themselves and sing. Okay, it looks like we don't have any questions. So again, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it. And hopefully I'll see you next month on April 7th for reports. Oh, here I got a chat. How do you correct wrong entries from years ago? This is a good question, Megan. So you're saying the stocking unit is set to 6-pack and the alternate unit is set to each, and how do I fix that? Yeah, it's a little bit of work. So the challenge here is that your price and cost are at the 6-pack. Okay, so we can easily unlock that main stocking unit field and change it to an each. But the challenge is the cost. So the price we can edit, that's easy, but the cost we can't edit, nor can we edit the average cost. So we basically have to adjust that item down to 0, bring it back in at the new main stocking level at the unit cost or the unit average cost, and then move on from there. But it's much easier to explain if we actually get together and I show you how to do it. Can you delete the product and join the two products? Yeah, so there is an item merge, but one of the rules about item merge is that they have to have the same stocking unit and alternate unit, so that won't work. You could delete the one and recreate the other, but then you're going to lose, you're not going to lose it, but you're going to orphan the history. So I don't recommend that. Okay, what numbers? Here, I have another question. And Megan, like I said, you can just reach out to me separately and we can get together and I'll show you how to do all that. What numbers do you assign to a PO received without a PO? We have assigned our receiving PO the same number as a PO. So that's a good question. If you're receiving without a PO, I think what you're asking is what number do I give the receiver? It depends on a configuration. If you're configured to always auto assign receiving numbers, you have to let Counterpoint take over the numbering for you by clicking on the auto assign button. If you are not configured to always auto assign, you can make up your own receiving numbers, and it can be any number that you like. So you can select a brand under purchase advice and it will bring up several items to order. Oh, yeah, this is the beauty about purchase advice, John. Purchase advice, you can look at multiple vendors or multiple categories, and Counterpoint will focus on the sales for those categories or vendors and then tell you what you should order based on your sales. It's a wonderful feature. Now, I showed you the cool add items earlier, and the add items is kind of like purchasing advice, except it's limited. When you go to add items and you run the replenishment feature, it can only look at the one vendor on the purchase request. When you run it purchasing advice, you can have purchasing advice look at a few vendors or all your vendors. Oh, I'm so sad to hear that you've never used it before because it's a really great feature. And again, just reach out to me. We can just schedule some training time. Do you plan on showing an alternate units report next month? Let's see. So we can break down each sold of each units. I did not plan on that, but I can go ahead and take a look at that for you. Out of the box, I'm not so sure it prints alternate units on the sales reports. I think it just prints eaches. But I'll take a look at that for you, Megan. Okay, does alternate units work if you use Galaxy as point of sale? Not for selling, Mark. There's no mechanism in Galaxy to relate to or understand alternate units. So, but you can still use alternate units for your purchasing. You just can't use it at point of sale in Galaxy. Okay, PO numbers. We use vendors abbreviation and dates for hours. Well, that's perfectly fine. And again, making up your own PO numbers, making up your own receiver numbers depends on a configuration and counterpoint. I'll just show you that real quick since we're talking about it. Let me just minimize this or exit. Goodbye. And I'll just open up counterpoint, which apparently I inadvertently closed. And for those of you still using the older version of counterpoint, this is what the new version looks like. No functionality changes, it just looks a whole lot different. So whether or not you can make up your own numbers depends on this setting. Setup, system, come all the way to the bottom to work groups. And you may have more than one work group, especially if you have multiple stores. So I'm just going to click on my one work group and I'm going to go to numbers. And you see how on purchase request it says always auto assign. So that means I just cannot make up my own purchasing document numbers because it's always auto assign. But when it comes to receiving, I don't have it checked, so I can make up my own receiving numbers. And then if you do change that, make sure you save. Okay, let's see if we got another question. If we were to use each as a default for receiving, how do we know how many 6, 12, 24 packs we have on hand? Well, that's the thing. There's no mechanism in counterpoint to say, I see you have 1 6-pack and 2 eaches. It's going to say you have 8 eaches. So you'd have to do the math. If you have 24 eaches, that would mean, 4 6-packs. Okay. But again, that's real handy, when you're doing physical inventory that you can count by your 6-pack or your 12-pack or your 24 packs. Okay. Any other questions? Well, those are all really good questions. You're much more lively than my morning class was. Okay. And if that's everything, I have no more questions. Again, I want to thank you for your time this afternoon, and hopefully I will see you again next month. And John, you are very welcome. I love doing these classes, but you can probably tell that. Okay, everyone, see you next month. Bye-bye.